Hey everyone, today I'm going to give you a quick look at my entire MOC collection. The oldest MOC here dates back to about a year ago, and the newest MOC is the dog creature right here, which that was made about 1 week ago. So all these MOCs vary in age greatly, and you can kind of see that because my building style has changed a lot. Like this red guy up front isn't built the same as, let's say, that big silver guy right there. So to kickstart this review, I'll just go ahead and start off with the lamest MOCs first. So I'll just grab this little guy in the front. He's probably about 50 or 60 pieces, and he took me maybe 10 minutes to build. And he's for a stop motion series that I'm going to do eventually. And I can't really tell you what's going to happen in that stop motion series because it's not confirmed that I'm doing it yet. So I don't want to give any promises yet. I don't really remember my thought process behind him. I just wanted to make somebody that was small and looked kind of alien-like. I like the use of that bionicle armor plate piece for his head. I think it works pretty well. I like the shoulder turn. It looks pretty good. I've definitely built cooler looking guns, but I think it's good enough for this guy. Next up is this little guy. He has the same exact head design, except he has yellow eyes instead, and his gun is a lot different. He has more of a minigun in a way, but it only has 4 barrels, and it probably shoots lasers, possibly. I don't know. I haven't really come up with a story for all of these little guys. I just built a lot of them one day. Then the last one of them for the day, this little red guy. He's my favorite one just because he has a different style of head. The eyes look different. And his gun's a little bit cooler in my opinion. I like him more just because, I don't know why. He's just more interesting than the other ones. Next up is this red samurai that I built. I think he's been up about 7 or 8 months. So he's actually one of the older MOCs up here. I like his leg design. It looks pretty good. I love these bionicle armor plate pieces. I have a lot of them, but I use them sparingly because they're one of my favorite armor plate pieces. His head is very cool. I like it a lot. It uses a Lego piece, actually. This big printed dish piece is from Kai & Cole's Samurai Mech. It's a Ninjago set. And I just saw it, so I took this piece off of it and put it on a Hero Factory MOC. He's pretty cool. He probably took me about 30 minutes to build. I'm actually going to be breaking him probably within the next week, though, just to use any parts that he has. Next up is Recon. I actually named him a while back. He's probably about a year old, maybe. I don't remember exactly. I could probably go back and find his review. I think this gun is actually a lot newer than him, though. Probably, I think I built it like 3 or 4 months ago. And I like him. He's kind of outdated, though. He doesn't have a very complex build. But I do like his overall look. I like this shoulder plate piece. That came from the Finn Lego Hero Factory Star Wars guy. I never really liked the Star Wars buildable figures as much, just because they didn't have as many useful pieces. Next up, we have this guy. I built him probably about 6 months ago, too. He looks pretty good. I never liked his legs, though. His head was my favorite part because it looks like an old-timey 60s robot. And the coolest design in his stomach is this little curve right there. I like that a lot. And I like the tanks on his back, too. He's not overly lame, but the legs ruin it for me. They're just not very complex. Next up is Vapor. He was built about a year ago. He actually has stayed looking pretty good in my opinion. Usually the older the MOC is, the more outdated he looks, but actually this Vapor guy I built has kind of stayed looking pretty current. Besides the few, like this CCBS joint right here. I don't usually use those anymore just because I build Technic limbs for them. But I still like him a lot. Most of the MOCs on this shelf are about to be broken in a week, unfortunately. So I'll be saying goodbye to him probably a few days. Next up is this Drilldozer guy I built probably about 9 months ago. He looks pretty good. He's kind of simple. I've always liked the shoulder pads, though. They work pretty well, and I love this Bionicle shield piece used for his chest plate. And he just has a lot of gears on his back, which look pretty good. I like this Bionicle jetpack piece that I used on his back. That looks pretty good. I have like 6 or 7 of those, but I don't use them a lot because they're pretty big and they take up a lot of space. So if I use one, it'll probably be on the character's back. Next up, I have this Bulk MOC that I built a while ago. I love Bulk 1.0's head. It looks very good. Also, I like the maroon shoulder plates. Those came from the 2018 Hulkbuster, I believe. I like this mechanical leg, too. It makes a good use of parts. This is a very simplistic MOC. It doesn't use a lot of pieces, but it's definitely one of my favorites. Next up, we have this Explode build that I did about 1.5 years ago. I really like him because he was one of the first MOCs that I built, and he really got me into MOC building. As you can see, he has a very simple design, but I've just always liked him because he was one of the first MOCs I ever built. Next up, we have this random MOC that I built, and actually, I've never pointed this out, but I guess I'll go ahead since he'll be broken soon. My brother really liked how this Explode's body was built, so he duplicated it. As you can see, I'll put him more in the light. He duplicated the body of this Explode and gave it to this guy, and I just added a few more wires onto him and gave him a chest plate, so he is just slightly different. His body is just slightly different than this Explode. He looks very good. The limbs, all of his limbs are original to him, but the body is pretty much completely the same as that Explode MOC. So, he's pretty cool. I should have made an original body for this head because that's one of my favorite Bionicle heads ever. And now I'll move on to the Phantom Knight, which I really like him. For a while, he was my coolest MOC, but now that title probably goes to the dog monster that I built about a week ago. That's definitely my coolest MOC so far. But I still like Phantom Knight. He's a very cool build, and I don't plan to break him soon. Unfortunately, his legs have a fatal flaw. They can't move outwards. They can only move forward and back, and the knees can move and the foot can move, but it can't move outwards. So that's really too bad, because back in the day when I built him, I didn't really know how to use pistons very well, and I couldn't just make a way for his legs to move out. You can slightly if you move that, so that's okay, but it's very restricted at best. Now moving on to this Nebula guy that I built probably 2 months ago. I really like him. He's very lightweight and tall, but unfortunately I had to take a few pistons off that were right here. I took them off, I think, to actually complete the dog monster over there. And so he doesn't have his pistons, so he's kind of unstable. His legs are going to move every which way, and he'll probably fall down the next time I stand him up. He looks pretty good. Unfortunately, his arms are a little bit short, and they're kind of stubby. Like this, his upper arm is super long, and then his forearm is kind of pretty short, which looks kind of weird. It doesn't look the best to me. Well, used to, also, he had a friction adding piece like this one right up here, and so that added another segment of length to the upper arm. So he doesn't look quite as disproportionate now that that piece is taken off, but still, I don't really like him. He was very cool at the time I built him, but he's not cool anymore. Next up is this Nebula MOC that I built about 2 months ago. He looks pretty good. I just don't like him very much. I don't know exactly why. He used to have pistons right here, but I had to take them off for another MOC. So if I set him down, he'll probably just fall down, because this leg over here is very loose, and that's unfortunate. His arms look okay. Just the forearm's kind of stubby, and it looks weird. He definitely looks interesting because he doesn't even have one CCBS joint. So he's all Technic, but still, I just don't like his overall build. Next up is this MOC, which I haven't even named him yet. I need to get around to doing that. I got a lot of good comments on what I should name him, but I still haven't decided on one. He's definitely my scariest MOC. He looks very creepy, and his hands are still a pretty cool design in my opinion. I like this Bionicle piece. It's a very good piece because it has a connection to a CCBS joint, and then it has a connection point for an axle. That's one of the most important pieces that I've ever gotten. This is probably the most interesting build I've ever done because he has 4 arms holding him up, and I don't know why, he just always has looked very interesting. I like his head a lot. It looks very good. It took me about 40 minutes to get the overall look that I was going for the head. His body is very, very, I don't even know the word, I guess entangled with itself, because it has so many wires holding things together and some interesting uses of Technic pieces. So it's all entangled. When I actually go to break him, I'm not sure where I'll start. He's a very sturdy build, and he's probably one of the most complex builds I've ever done. At least complex for his size. Next up, this is probably one of my favorite MOCs ever. All of his limbs, except for his tiny little neck, are Technic. He looks very good around all angles. The back is obviously the worst angle, just because I wasn't jam-packing it with details. But I had a lot of very interesting sloping with some Bionicle armor plate pieces right around here. I like all of the shapes in the stomach, and these 2 tan wing pieces work out very well with this big Bionicle foot piece. I love Hydraxon's head. That might be my absolute favorite Bionicle head. Also, his legs are very, very interesting and cool. I like how I used this gear piece to make kind of a cool detail. It looks like it's moving along with the leg. Well, it actually is moving along with the leg, but it's not doing anything. I originally thought about putting a rubber band around it and connecting it somewhere up here to where it actually did turn a piece up here, but I just decided not to do that because this gear piece would have to stick out all the way out here, and so that wouldn't look the best in my opinion. But I just like how it looks anyway. This piston back here actually does keep his legs sturdy, and it works very well, except for if you pull it out a little bit too far, that'll happen. Which, that's unfortunate, but sometimes sacrifices have to be made. There's a very simple fix for that. I just put a longer bar piece, but this is the longest bar piece with a cap at the end of it to where it won't slip off that black ball joint. So it might fix it completely, but also the bar piece might slip out of that black ball piece. It just depends. I hope it works, but it might not. I also like his shoulder pads up here. They look very good, and his hands work out very nicely. He has this little actual piece so he can hold on to things. Next up, we have the coolest MOC I've ever built, Stalker, a giant mechanical dog. I think it looks very good. He's probably one of my most complex MOCs ever. His legs are very sturdy. The back legs use pistons just to give him a little more stability, just for when he's standing up. And I gave him 3 jointed back legs just to be as close to a dog as possible. His front legs, I didn't give pistons because they're pretty stable on their own. I didn't feel like they needed them. And they move very well. He has a wide range of posability. And I believe he can stand on 3 legs. I think he's stable enough to, well, yeah, he probably could if you absolutely wanted him to. But he's a very heavy MOC, so that's not too bad that he can't always stand on 3 legs. He's probably the heaviest MOC I've ever made, at least up to this point. I like his head a lot. I had to use some triangular building to get all the shapes in that I wanted. His back is very technicky, as you can see. I gave him these big shoulder plates, which I like a lot. Those are just half of the 2016 Bionicle Bear Trap pieces, which those work very well as shoulder plates. Turning him around to the underside, you'll see he's not very complex, but he doesn't look bad. Almost all of his angles look pretty good. He's definitely the longest MOC I've ever built. His tail is probably the worst part of him, but that's just because at the end of the build I was kind of tired of building him, so I just gave him kind of a rat tail. Overall, he's definitely one of the coolest MOCs I've ever built. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment down below and tell me what your favorite MOC is. I've really enjoyed MOC building over the last year, and I hope to make a lot more MOCs soon. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.